Welcome into First Take. I'm Monica McNutt in for Molly Kieram. We got a squad today. We're whipping around the sports world. HD, Harry Douglas.
Good to see you, sis.
It's good to see. The suit is sharp. You're doing your thing.
Wifey picked it out for me.
She did her thing. I love that you gave her credit. We've got Brian Windhorst from some location, but Wendy's with us. Wendy, what's up?
Good morning. What's going on, guys?
I love that greeting. It's good to have you here because we are definitely jumping into some NBA, and we can't do that without the one and only Kendrick Perkins. Perk, how we feeling?
What's up, Monica? Monica, don't start the show off lying to Harry, talking about how great that suit looks.
Lord.
It's okay.
Look at that. All right, well, that's the energy we got on this Thursday. I'm going to let y'all work that out in the discussion. And let's jump right into it, y'all, because there's an article on .com, ESPN.com, that is talking about Joel Embiid. The focus is highlighting his offseason in terms of getting him healthy and back to an MVP level. I encourage you to read the article. It's fascinating stuff, really well done. It's an interesting profile on one of the most fascinating players in the NBA. One of the biggest takeaways is an update on his return. It reads, "We're not going to push anything. For my whole career, I felt like we never took that approach. We don't have a timeline, hopefully sooner rather than later." When asked if his organization supports his new patient approach, Embiid had this to say: "I don't know how they feel. The only thing I'd say is this is a business. It's all about the results. And if I come back early enough and I'm still not myself, guess what? You're not winning any games." All right, so look, that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg to me in terms of that article, HC. But Wendy, I'm going to come on and bring this conversation right to you. What do you make of basically Embiid disputing Morey's timeline?
There's so much in this story that it's very hard to look at one quote or one aspect of it and try to summarize anything. This story goes very deep into Joel's past, his childhood, his relationship with the Sixers over the last decade. Forget about the last 3 months. And so what I would just say is it highlights something that remains true today, which is that Joel is got an incredible blend of athleticism and size. It's really like a 1 in a billion type skill and size. And that's why he won the MVP award 2 years ago. It's why before he really suffered this knee injury, after that, where he was really having one of the greatest seasons of the modern era offensively. It's one of the reasons why the Sixers have invested so much in him. But he's very physically, and I think this story illustrates, emotionally fragile. He gets injured. He, not just with knees and feet like we see with lots of big athletes, but he's broken bones in his face 5 times in his career. He's fallen in warm-ups. He fell in warm-ups and got injured twice just last season, okay? So he's physically fragile, and this story illustrates in great painstaking detail over the course of a decade plus that emotionally it affects him in a way where he becomes emotionally fragile. And I don't say that as a criticism. I say that as a takeaway from what this very in-depth story says. So we have a player who's physically dealing with, all these challenges and has to maintain and deal with his emotions just as much as he has to maintain his body. And so you are going to have difficult situations because of that. And I know what you're asking is a simple question, Monica. I don't have a simple answer. You're asking me if they're on the same page. I don't have a simple answer because this is a very complex person this story tells.
I appreciate that, Wendy, because if ever there was an instance, Harry, where you need to have a little bit of nuance and touch, it would be on some of the things coming out from this story.
Yeah, and I would say this. I think it's glaring to me that when you look at Daryl Morey and you also look at the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid, they're not on the same page, especially when it comes to his body. And I would also say this. Joel Embiid, even though you may feel like you may have been pushed here and there to play, at the end of the day, you have the final say. You're the player. You're the franchise guy. You're the guy that, is the face of the franchise in so many words. And when it comes to the process that people talked about for so long for the Philadelphia 76ers, well, the process has failed. And now hearing this from Joel Embiid, it's okay to want to look out for yourself, but at the same time, I would ask you, why did you play in the Olympics last year? If your body was not healthy and you needed time to figure out how to get ready for the season, don't go play in the Olympics. So there are so many components to it that you can nitpick and bring up in this conversation. But it's clearing and it's glaring to me that the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid, they are not on the same page.
Perk, where are we on this?
You know, I'm glad Harry brought up that point because 2 seasons ago, I know y'all been probably watching Love Island, but I'm gonna call this Perk Island. Because I stood on the island. I stood on the island by myself and said that Joel Embiid, not only should he have not played in the Olympics, he should have not played towards the end of the season when they got bounced against the New York Knicks. And I said the Philadelphia 76ers need to shut him down and put a plan in place. And at that point, I got called everything but a child of God. But here we are. Now Joel Embiid is speaking out. And it's hard because I'm not going to come on here and criticize this man. He's been injured since he's got into the NBA, right? Coming out of Kansas. Hell, he was injured there. And so when you think about this situation, at one point we was looking at the Philadelphia 76ers, and at one point we saw structure. We saw stability. We saw culture. And then all of a sudden, since Daryl Morey has taken over this job, it's gotten worse. Since he's taken over this organization, it's got worse. Let's be real here. And now all of a sudden you're looking at your franchise guy, well, one of your franchise guys, your players, not being able to start the season next year, and Joel Embiid, because he's telling us right now that his body is not right, which we already know. Paul George just underwent a procedure. Now you look at your next guy in the diamond in the rough that you found in Tyrese Maxey, and the Philadelphia 76ers are on the clock. They're on the clock when it comes down to Tyrese Maxey. And when I say on the clock, because if they keep trending in this direction of no culture and no stability, guess what? Tyrese Maxey is going to want out of Philadelphia, okay? And we know who his agent is Rich Paul. And Rich Paul don't give a damn. I'm telling you this is something that I know. And so when you think about the 76ers and Daryl Morey, they got to get it together right now. Because you understand you're dealing with Joel Embiid, but your franchise guy who you got late in the second round, 5 or 6 years ago is Tyrese Maxey. You got to make sure that he's healthy. And my last point that I'm going to say real quick, Monica.
Go for it.
My last point is when it comes down to Joel Embiid, this is the importance of having an agent. Right? Wendy, help me out here. Joel Embiid represents himself, right?
That's correct, yes.
You need an agent at this point. See, you need an agent to be in the middle, to be the bad guy, to tell the organization and the ownership, my guy is not going to be playing. He's not healthy. We're going to go to other doctors around the country to get an evaluation, not just in the 76ers organization. Everyone doesn't have a healthy marriage like when you look at Sam Presti and SGA and what they got going on right now. This is why you value agents for situations like this.
So, Perk, those are all very pertinent points. And before we continue to go a little bit deeper in this, I just want to shout out the writer. I believe his name is pronounced Dojin Akintoye. He did a great job, and you can tell that there are some connections culturally that allowed him to get this insight from Joel Embiid. So I think he deserves a shout out. But you brought up the point, Perk, in terms of the relationships. And in the article, Embiid talks about basically his trust issues and not being able to expand out his circle. Maybe not being able to, but not willing to. So, Wendy, when you consider that, how do you move forward? Because we have long talked about rest and empowerment and players sitting, and Joel Embiid rattles off the different narratives surrounding him in this article. And the only one that I imagine he probably would agree with based on facts is that he has truly been injured and it has stifled his career. But how do the Sixers and Embiid move forward the way you see it, Wendy?